let's go ahead and like jump into the conversation. We both want to talk about tips or theories or concepts or whatever for people to focus on in 2024 to really, you know, have that hockey stick and skill or trajectory for getting better at jiu-jitsu. So let's go ahead and like jump into the first one. What is the first thing you think people should focus on in 2024 to get better at jiu-jitsu?
The first thing I think people should focus on is not just learning more techniques. And if anything, I would try to stop learning more techniques altogether, like if you've reached a certain point, and I would just work on getting better at the techniques you do know. And for example, like, sometimes I think about what kind of instructionals I want to make and whatnot. And if it's like a guard like De La Hiva or reverse De La Hiva, like I can't really fill out a whole like couple hours worth of instructional because I only do like 3 or 4 things, and like it's really not that much stuff. And it doesn't take a long time to learn a couple different moves from different positions and kind of make it part of your game. But I feel like so many people, they just want to collect techniques, and a lot of these techniques are like they might only be available like a very small percentage of the time. Whereas like there's techniques that are just so fundamental that they haven't even perfected yet. Like a great example is like a knee slide. Like I said it many times before on the channel that like, anytime I roll the blue belt, they try to knee slide me. I always know they're going to give me the underhook, and then I'm going to be able to take their back. But they still do it over and over and over. But if they were to understand better when to go for it, how to set up grips, the grips needed to do it and whatnot, they would have more success and they wouldn't, have their back taken. So, but instead, again, they want to learn more and more different techniques, and they haven't perfected the ones they are good at. So, or that they do use and they're probably good at. So yeah. And there's a difference between being good at something and, truly mastering it. And, yeah, that's what I think people should do. It's just, really hunker down and get better at what's actually important instead of collecting techniques. And yeah, just in general, I think what people should do is just focus this year on understanding jiu-jitsu better. I think that's what's most important over everything. Like the more you understand it, the easier it's going to be and the less you need to think. Like a great comparison would be like techniques are kind of like if you're going to learn a new language, like learning a bunch of phrases is great for sure. And there's phrases that are going to be very important to learn to get around, but you need to truly understand the language to, be able to communicate. And that's the same with jiu-jitsu. A lot of people are pretty good at jiu-jitsu, but they still don't, they don't understand it great. And they could be better if they understood it better. And there's people that aren't great at jiu-jitsu. And if they increase their understanding, instead of trying to collect different techniques, they would get better too. So that's what I think is most important this year. Just try to understand jiu-jitsu better, through concepts, through like just learning more and asking your instructor questions, because that's one thing too. It's I think people don't ask enough questions. And that's one thing in my classes. Like I always ask, does anyone have any questions? And nobody has any questions, but I want people to ask questions so they can understand it better. Because again, it's not just the move itself you need to know. It's like the why behind it and just understanding jiu-jitsu as a whole.
Yeah, I posted a meme yesterday that was like, it was basically about, that white belt that asks what ifs or too many questions or whatnot, and how sometimes, coaches or professors can get annoyed about it. But that person is gaining a lot of knowledge by asking questions. You know what I mean? I always tell my son, I'm like, don't be afraid to ask questions, because what you think you're going to look stupid because you're asking a question that you don't understand, but what's going to make you look dumber, being held back or asking a question and trying to understand something? You know what I mean? Like, you got to ask questions. It's okay to ask. No one knows everything. Even you don't know everything. You know a lot. You know what I mean? But it's okay to ask questions. You have to have the humility to know, like, man, I don't understand this. Like, and be okay with that, because jiu-jitsu is a long game. You're not going to know everything right away. Especially like most people that listen to this are low level belts. They're mid, you know what I mean? Like blues, maybe purple, a lot of white. Don't put that stress on yourself thinking that you can't ask a question because you're supposed to know something. I'm gonna tell you right now, your professor knows you don't know anything.
Yeah.
So ask the question.
I mean, if an instructor doesn't like when their students ask questions, that makes no sense to me. Because for a lot of reasons. One, it shows that they're interested and want to learn. And then two, if you don't know the answer to the question, then that's a problem. And you can solve it by thinking about it. And then you're going to understand the instructor themselves are going to understand jiu-jitsu better and be more prepared when they are asked that question. So I love when people ask me a question, I have to think about it. And I'm like, okay, well, now that I can actually use what they asked and my
Mm,
understanding now on YouTube, because other people might have the same question. And, I've increased my understanding. And when I was a blue belt, especially, I asked so many questions. I was probably so annoying to the instructor. Well, I know it for sure I was. Like I
the
could,
meme was for you, Jordan.
yeah, yeah. I could feel it. I could feel it from them, and sometimes the other students. But I wanted to know why. Like always, I want to know why. Why this? Why not that? Why is this not better? Why is this grip not better? This is easier for me. Like why do I have to do it this way? But not in like a, you know, ch-
Condescending way.
yeah, exactly. Not in a condescending, challenging way. Like I truly want to know. And I remember one time I asked a question, and then he said, "Well," and then the answer was, "Well, this is how the Mendez brothers do it. That's the way they taught it." But like that's not good enough for me. Like if he doesn't know, then he should figure out the answer, not just this is how you do it because I was told it. And a lot of instructors do that, where they teach how they've been taught rather than teaching like how they understand it, because they don't understand it great. So yeah, man, ask questions like as much as you can until you truly understand everything.